Welcome to the Jaybe Font channel. I'm your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here. If you guys can hear me, please let me know. I'm using a microphone, so this will come out a little bit more clearly. So what we're doing right now is we are literally in front of the federal courthouse in Tampa. So we're here right now. I got here a little bit late because that's the earliest bus I can take. So for the Uhuru 3 trial that's going on right now, from what I've heard from security is that they are actually doing jury selection right now. He said jury selection. He said if everything goes smoothly, it would actually finish maybe by lunchtime, which is about 30 to 45 minutes from now. I'm hoping that when they come out, that I will be able to speak to people like Chairman Amalia Chatella, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville. Once they exit, I wanted to see Dr. Joe Stein that was here this morning as well. I'm not sure if she's in there or she's coming back, but if she is, then I would also like to interview her and get her thoughts as well. Black Power Media's Jackie Lukeman was here as well, and I would, if she ever does come back, then I'll also speak to her as well. Good to see everybody that's joining right now. Good to see you, Terry Connolly, Bobby Ishak, and Not Your Mama. Good to see you as well. Just to also let you guys know, I should be here for a little while, so I will not be here overnight, unfortunately, because I have my dialysis treatment in the morning. But I would like to also speak to a couple of people who are also in support of the Uhuru 3 that are speaking with us. What's your name?
Mary Valdemar.
Mary. So I'm here with Mary Valdemar, and you're joining as well from California.
Yes, I'm from the inland region in Southern California, which is San Bernardino and Riverside counties, right outside of about an hour outside of Los Angeles. I'm here representing two organizations, CHICA, which is a Chicano Indigenous organization, and the Native American Community Council for San Bernardino and Riverside, as Indigenous and Native people from the West Coast in California. We are in deep understanding that the liberation of these folks here today, is something that impacts all of us. Land back. We know this is stolen land. We know that the labor of folks that was stolen. We know that the history of folks has been stolen, and the truth is not being told in our education system, in our media, in all the places where we should have transparent learning and wisdom being shared. We know that's not happening. And so we're here in solidarity to say, all eyes on Uhuru, free them all, from Leonard Peltier to, the folks here fighting for freedom of speech today, that this is the court case. All eyes need to be watching this. This is the freedom of speech of our time. And if we're not here in solidarity, we're going to lose the right to organize for all of us.
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of people have talked about was the recent release of Julian Assange. Julian Assange has been spent years in the Belmarsh prison, and one of the things that he was speaking of was basically what our government was doing to us and in our names. And what is your thoughts in conjunction with what happened with people like Julian Assange, and now with people like the Uhuru 3?
I think, folks who dissent and folks who criticize the government at any level, whether it's, internationally, nationally, at the state level or local community level, are at risk right now of being charged with conspiracy, being charged with, foreign nationals, influencing them, because, for this particular case, it's clear that not just the organizers of color are being targeted, but the allies and accomplices of organizers of color, folks who are fighting for liberation around the world.
Yeah.
And, it's no coincidence that the case that we see here at the federal level mirrors a case that we have back at home in California called Justice 8, where 8 community organizers were arrested and held without bail for more than 6 months for organizing in defense of street vendors and defense of their local communities. And when we look at all of these folks who are political prisoners at every level, from international to national to the local level, cop city, all of it, we see the same pattern, which is suppression, targeting of people who are dissenting from what's happening in their communities, who are calling out, you know, police brutality, excessive force, extraction of the environment, you know, a lack of democracy in so-called democratic nations and democratic processes, you know, across the board. And it's really time for people to wake up and understand that if it could happen to Julian, if it could happen to the Uhuru 3, if it could happen to the Justice 8, it can happen to you. You are next. And if you are someone who has an opinion about what is going on in your community or around the world, you are at risk of this happening to you. Unless we stand together and we you know, not focus on the many differences of our communities and our cultures and our fights, but focus on what we all share, which is the right to freedom of speech, the right to gather, the right to protest, the right to do civil disobedience, the right to make sure that our voices and our history are known.
Thank you very much for that. And what's your name?
Maravilla.
Maravilla?
Maravilla.
Maravilla? Nice to meet you. Now, can you give us, in your own words, why you're out here supporting the Uhuru 3?
So as Mary said, you know, it's a fight that's happening, and we're seeing this kind of situation of folks being repressed for just organizing mutual aid. So for me, this is an expression of it should not be illegal to do mutual aid. It is not a threat to this nation to do mutual aid. And so I see this as an expression from the government trying to say you're not allowed to support each other.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, supporting these cases is supporting the right to organize, the right to help each other out, and to say and to organize from the truth, right? And that's why they're being tried, is for talking about the truth, and that truth leads to that good work.
Yeah.
And so I'm out here because it's about freedom of speech. It's about the right to organize and the right for that we are self-determinate.
Yeah.
You know, we're not taking orders from other people. We're not colluding on this global scale. We're just trying to make sure that, like, we're fed. And I feel that is what they're showing the whole United States and everyone by making this a federal case, is that you can't feed people without being a threat.
Yeah.
And I feel that folks really need to pay attention to that. But this is solidarity for me. Our fight is the same fight, and we need to be connected with each other if we want any of this to go anywhere.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of the Food Not Bombs and what they're trying to do across the nation, and they're constantly being harassed by
ticketed for feeding hungry people, right?
Yeah.
But let's take that definition of feeding people another step, right? You know, Uhuru, they're not just feeding people food, or clothing people. They're feeding people's consciousness.
Minds.
They're feeding their minds.
Yeah.
They're feeding their spirit with this, you know, African-centric, you know, truth that has been stripped from the schools, stripped from society, stripped from the churches, stripped from every level, and they're feeding them the very core and essence of their ancestral wisdom and knowledge and brilliance.
Yes.
What could be more dangerous? That's more dangerous than weapons. That's more dangerous than anything I can think of. Money.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing more dangerous that they could be feeding them in the minds of someone who wants to control them. Someone who wants them to be free and liberated, that's not a danger. But someone who wants to control them, their community, then that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it's the feeding them in a bigger sense, not just food, right?
Yeah.
It's all the things that they're being fed and nurtured that has been lacking for so long.
Yeah. You know what? You're cooking so good. I'm just going to add a little side dish real quick.
Go for it.
So this reminds me of, for instance, when they put your ancestors in residential schools because they wanted to control the minds of the young people. They wanted to control the spirits of the young people.
Kill the savage, save the man, right?
Yeah,
that was the motto.
Yep. And then this is when they didn't allow my ancestors to read and write.
And lied about spirituality, lied about what the Bible was saying.
Yep, absolutely.
How about this? Lied about all of our ancestors being the original scientists. Because science didn't happen until 1492 when we got colonized. They don't want to talk about the pyramids. They don't want to talk about the pyramids in Mexico.
Came from aliens, right?
They came from aliens. They don't want to talk about how Native people were doing environmental justice, right? Control burn and forest fire, permaculture. No, that all came from
Native people built pyramids too.
Yeah.
And studied the whole stars.
Map the stars, traveled the world, all the things, right?
Yeah.
Right? No, but that's not what you learn in your school books. You learn that none of that happened until 1492. Science didn't come along until colonization. We have all the white, theorists to thank for everything, astronomy, psychology, engineering, all of it was white folks. No.
They learn from us a lot of the time.
So when you're talking about dangerous, feeding somebody is dangerous. That's what's dangerous. The truth. The truth about who they are, their ancestral wisdom. That's dangerous to somebody who doesn't want you to know who you are.
It reminds me of the Black Panther Party when they were doing the free breakfast program.
Absolutely.
We did not have actual free breakfasts in this country until after they did what they did.
No WIC, none of those programs existed until
they co-opt our movements and our mutual aid that is to liberate, and then to use that to kind of trap us back into their cycle as well.
And not only that, then criminalize it, right? That's the important part. To criminalize it like there was some other agenda, discredit the organizers who were the founders of those movements and those ideas that liberated not just Black communities, all communities, right? Because right after that came the American Indian movement, the Young Lords, the Chicano movement, like all of the movements, right? Came right at the tails of that. And that's because it wasn't ever just about one community. It was about all of our communities and all of our ancestors and all of the truth that is being taken from us.
I feel like that's why this case is so important. Is because this one, it matters so. We can't pretend that like these are just specific community issues. These are anti-fascist issues, and we are all pushing against fascism.
And we can't let them criminalize community organizers. These people are of service to the community. They're trying to open eyes and wake up minds and bring people back to who they are. Like that's not criminal. And if that is criminal, that's not a society I want to be in. Because just because it's legal doesn't make it moral. A lot of our laws have not been moral. And it was up to community organizers to show that and make the laws change, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where we sit today, in that spirit.
Like shut down something that makes change is like an expression of this nation. Like I don't want to change. I know what I'm doing as a nation, as a government, and I don't want it to change. And I think remembering that too is there's not these well-meaning politicians kind of just falling through the cracks and these are the unintended consequences. They know exactly what they're doing because they see someone do it better than them and they go,
it's a threat.
Can you both talk about, because you guys were talking about this with Jackie Lukeman a little bit earlier, but can you talk about how also the targeting of white accomplices as well? Like we see, because it was not just Chairman Omali Yeshitela, it's also Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who are both white, who are also assisting them in the Uhuru movement. Can you talk about that as well?
Like just going back to that history of Black Panthers and American Indian movement and looking at all the COINTELPRO that has happened at the hands of the government to shut down liberation movements, right? And people know Malcolm X and they know Martin Luther King, but a lot of times they don't know about these other organizations.
Some of them Jewish too.
Absolutely. And I think the real threat in this particular case is that in my memory, most of the time that targeting was really focused on the organizers of color, right? And in this case, it's the chairman and two white accomplices, folks who are working under the banner of White People for Black Liberation. And I think that is another added layer of threat, and that the writing between the lines is that the government is saying, if you are a white person and you are allying yourself with people who are seeking liberation, no matter who those people are, you are going down. Like we are going to take you down because we are not going to let the larger community think that that is going to be acceptable and that we are going to just allow that to happen. And I see that as a threat for a lot of movements, the Palestinian movement, like a lot of movements that are happening right now. You know, certainly a lot of Native movements, Pop City, and a lot of, you know, we're seeing that like we've never seen that before. I think about Standing Rock, where we saw an incredible amount of white allies show up for Native people like we'd never seen in my lifetime or lifetimes before that. And so I think the government is paying attention that that is something that is changing, and that white people are also waking up to the fact that the liberation of people of color means also the liberation of white folks. And that they're no longer buying this division, you know, of us, and that they understand that fighting for everyone's liberation benefits everybody, right? And that's a good thing. That means people are starting to take the blinders off, and they're starting to see the truth. And you know, they were talking in the press conference earlier that this case is good for the movement no matter what, because if it helps us take the blinders off and we get the national attention that we need, so people can pay attention to what is really happening here and why it's really happening. And it has nothing to do with Russia. Nothing to do with Russia. And the fact that that is being used as a smokescreen, you know, to justify this, you know, injustice, you know, is like very, very obvious to people who do community organizing. And I, you know, I call on all community organizers. I don't care what you're organizing about: food justice, environmental justice, police brutality, social justice, education. I don't care what you're organizing about. You need to be here. You need to be here. You need to get a plane ticket, get on a bus, get on a train sometime in September, and show up here on these steps and let these folks know that we are going to be in solidarity with all community organizers, that this is not okay, and this is not justice. This is supposed to be a hall of justice. This is not justice. Period.
It's not. And now, as far as, because this is the Department of Justice, this is Joe Biden's Department of Justice, a Democrat. Can you both talk about what this means for people who say, well, we just need to vote in another Democrat because we have to reduce the harm reduction. That's what they're saying. What is your thoughts about that? I would like to go back to you really quick first.
I think that, like, to start that conversation, there has to be like a recognition of like, we're in a corporatocracy. And so anybody who's taking that corporate money has corporate interests, which are capitalist interests, which don't care about people. So I think that, like, of course, someone, you know, like I was saying before, offering to an alternative to capitalism, offering an alternative to struggling to feed yourself every day, as an example, or to receive education, is, it's like a threat to them. It is again that, like, that if you're not doing it this corporate way, no matter if it is blue or red, you're still going to be targeted. So voting in another Democrat or Joe Biden, who, you know, talks all this talk, it's just talk. It's just what can I say to quiet you down so that you think I'm the good guy while we're still raping the land. We're still exploiting folks. I don't think there's any difference, or that party lines make no difference about this issue. Because they are all corporately funded.
I want to lift up something that was said in the press conference earlier, which is, this is a case about hypocrisy, not democracy, right? And as we look at the hypocrisy of both parties and their blatant, you know, refusal to acknowledge the genocide of people around the world, Congo, Palestine, you know, here in this country, wherever, right? There is a concerted genocide happening on almost every level. And the failure to recognize that is the highest level of hypocrisy. So when people talk about democracy and they want to talk about elections and they want to talk parties, first you have to acknowledge, is this really democracy? And I think a lot of folks have established that it isn't, and that the hypocrisy is blatant on both sides, from the fact that Trump was, you know, completely with Russia, like completely, and them trying to say that these Black organizers or white organizers or any organizers we're only criticizing the government because Russians were telling them to do so is ludicrous. Like, it's ludicrous. And then to look at the Democratic Party and see the same level of ignorance and hypocrisy, it's frustrating, because here we are, 2024, supposed to have learned something from the civil rights movement, from the models that we have had of what it looks like to really have, fight for liberation of our peoples and put our lives on the line so that we could enjoy the freedoms. This is Labor Day weekend. People gave their lives so we could have a weekend, so we could have a 5-day work week, so we could have health care, so we could not have children working in factories. Like, that was organizing, community organizing, that made that happen.
Yeah.
And here we are criminalizing that same organizing. If we had done that in all these other movements, we wouldn't even have what we have today, which is not enough.
Yeah.
So it's like the hypocrisy. It's hypocrisy, not democracy.
Yeah. Somebody asked in the chat, did Tucker Carlson show up? Was he here at all?
No, they mentioned him, and they mentioned that even folks in the Republican Party were saying this was not right.
Yeah.
And so really wrap your head around that. Like, you have people in both parties who are acknowledging this is not right, and you have people in both parties engaging in this Hippocratic rhetoric, around democracy. Like, the problem is clearly not the community organizers.
Yeah.
The problem is something's wrong with our political system and our voting system. Like, it doesn't work. So,
or it works to do exactly what it was meant to do.
Yeah.
Which is consolidate power and make people reliant on you.
Yeah.
And make the public reliant on the government.
That's the correction, right? It's not that it doesn't work. It works exactly as it was designed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people aren't really focused on. And there was a phrase, I love this quote, is that you can imagine the end of the world before you can imagine the end of capitalism.
Mm.
And so we're seeing
Mad Max movies and all that. Like, but we can't imagine the end of capitalism. Yeah, that's very true.
I think this is why Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek is so captivating, because people are like, wait a minute, there's no capital here.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen another science fiction or any type of fiction at all that actually reflected something that's outside of capitalism. At all either. So I see that too. And so as far as what's going on between, for instance, I was telling you guys about what happened with Richard Medhurst. He was arrested just for being a journalist.
Yeah.
We have Julian Assange. We have Scott Ritter that had a FBI raid on his house. Let
me say something about that. So the thing I think the average resident or citizen needs to really understand is that the people that are doing these things, you are paying for them. You are literally paying these people's salaries to do this bullshit justice. And meanwhile, we look at our communities and we see folks struggling, right? Like, folks can't afford housing. Folks can't get a union job with a retirement anymore. Like, young folks can't get a job with, I'm work for a community college. I have a union. I have a retirement. I have medical coverage. That is rare. I've been there 20 years. People don't get to work somewhere 20 years anymore. So think about where your tax dollars are going. And they're going a lot of money to maintain this kind of system that is literally criminalizing people that are just trying to help folks in the community. And it is a waste of taxpayer money, no matter what party you're with. And at some point, people need to demand that our money, whether it's at the national level, state level, local level, or international level, not be going to these ridiculous cases that are not about helping larger humanity, right? This is not about humanity. This is about somebody's ego, and they don't like somebody as an organizer, and they're using the justice system to go after them for, some ego-driven, narcissistic political reason. That's what this is. It's an attack against the freedoms of people who dissent, and the villainizing and criminalizing of people based on freedom of speech. That is just a waste of our taxpayer money.
Yeah. Whether were you about to say something? I'm sorry. Okay. Whether either way this goes, what is your biggest hope once the jury deliberates and then they make a ruling? What is your biggest hope out of all this? Because of course we all want the Uhuru three to be acquitted for this, but even if they were found guilty, do you see any silver lining coming out from this in regards to the larger community?
I think it's an undeniable attack on free speech. I think if they are found guilty and charged to full extent and it becomes that way, I think as a movement we cannot deny that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't say, oh, but we have this free. No, no. And it really punctuates the urgency to protect that part of this tenfold.
Yeah.
I think like we can get so caught up, and it makes sense that we get caught up in doing the on the ground work of being there for each other, but we have to remember like that can't happen without these kinds of things. We have to remember that like we're fighting for that.
Yeah.
Just to add to that a little bit, like, I mentioned earlier, I work at a public community college. It used to be that the college was the place where you learned about civil disobedience and social justice.
True.
That you could do direct action on a college campus. That it was a part of your learning process about the world and justice and what it really meant to fight for your freedoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in an era where that is no longer the case at any college, whether it's public or private or community or state or whatever, Ivy League. You are no longer allowed to do that on a community college or on any college higher education campus.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If you can't do any kind of protest or civil disobedience at a college campus, where can you do it? Because that was the last place that you could do it without getting maced or, stormtroopers, knocking you down or expelled or losing your housing or not being allowed to graduate. I think it's outrageous that people cannot see the writing on the wall, which is that the attack against the Uhuru 3, for them speaking out in their own community center, at their own events, the attack of students who are protesting against genocide across the country, the attack against anybody who dissents, can literally come to a courthouse and be criminalized where you can be threatened with 15 years in federal prison.
Yeah.
So you better be careful whatever you say around the dinner table or whatever you say, in the library, whatever you're reading in the library or whatever, where does that slippery slope stop?
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of when a lot of people on the right will say, well, think freely because that may be illegal soon.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, they don't realize how quickly that may happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're looking at the left and thinking that, oh, it's not much of an issue.
Yeah.
When in reality, the left actually gets attacked way more than anybody who would be considered far right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, one of my questions is also is to those who are Black and brown.
Mm-hmm.
What is your message to them in regards to this case? Because I would like to speak directly to them because a lot of people, I feel like in our communities, just don't pay attention as much. Part of it is because we are so overworked and overburdened so that they make it so that we can't pay attention.
You have to let that anger come from love. Mm-hmm. If you just let that anger come from anger, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be tired. I think to other young folks, like, don't stop watching the news. Like, don't get so overwhelmed or, take those breaks for yourself, but like, let it ignite that compassion in you. Let it ignite that love in you. And then you will be able to just keep pouring forward because that's where it's coming from. But on the side of burnout, it's real, but like, are we not human to like also sympathize with the suffering of other humans? I think about young folks who stopped keeping their eyes on Palestine for those reasons, and it's like, you're supposed to hurt. Nobody is going to feel good knowing about what's happening, And you just have to learn how to alchemize that hurt into something that heals the people around you, so it's healing yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that is organizing. That is this work. And it's like, yeah, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling like this is too much, you have control enough to educate somebody or be in community with somebody so that load is less heavy to carry on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Many hands make the load light, right?
exactly.
I want to make a plea to our journalists, our independent journalists, our media people, our folks who hold in their hands, you know, the ability to tell the stories of liberation and justice.
Yeah.
Because when I think about talking to Black and brown folks, I think about the people who inspire me. And right now, we were just talking about recently that the reason we're here is because we were at an event in San Diego in California called Cancel RIMPAC. And it was about militarization of the military bases in San Diego and the military exercises and games that happen in Hawaii and San Diego, and all this money that goes into practicing the war, basically, right?
Yeah.
And the detriment to the earth, the detriment to the indigenous people. And that's what brought us here, because there was a speaker there about the Uhuru 3. And we talked to them about the Justice 8. And right away, we could see the parallels. And as we engaged in the actions at Council RIMPAC, you know, I'm sorry, but the API community has their shit together. It was awesome what they did in San Diego. And a few months before that, they did an action against APEC in San Francisco. And that was awesome. Like, took over this bridge and like the whole nine. And I was just like, man, these folks have this unity where, yeah, they have conflicts, you know, Filipino folks, Oceania folks, you know, all kinds of different folks from different Asia diaspora, but they were unified on one thing, right? They were unified on their messaging around APEC and Cancel RIMPAC, these things that impact their homelands in huge ways, right? If Black and brown people could do that, if Black and brown and Native people could do that, if we could all do that, you know, it would be a game changer. It would be a game changer, you know? Like, definitely. Imagine we had enough people to take over 4 blocks of this community here today, you know?
Yeah, great.
But we struggle to get past our differences to do that.
Yeah.
And we got to get over that.
Definitely. Thank you. Oh, Jason Call. Nice to meet you.
How you doing?
All right. Good to see you.
Joe's here. Jamu's here.
Ah, Uncle Ajamu. Good to see you. How are you? Nice to meet you. Hi. Good to meet you. Finally.
And none of us brought any of our electronics.
I'm sorry. I'm a hugger. So yeah. Jackie. Good to see you. Yeah. How are you all doing today?
Hi, how are you? Jennifer's inside. Jennifer's Sullivan.
Yeah.
So we met Jennifer out in Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm literally live right now. I'm live on my channel. Yeah. We're here. I'm here with the Green Party actually here. And we have, for instance, Jason Call, Juma Baraka. We have Dr. Jill Stein here, who is also running for president of the United States. So it's so good to see all of you here. I wanted to ask you all, why are you here? I know you guys have talked about that earlier before, but please give us why you're here as well.
Well, I mean, this is the place to be. This is where the trial of the century is happening. And we're here to support Chairman Omali Yeshitila and the Uhuru 3, because this is, this is a horrific attack on the African American community. It's an attack on our rights of free speech. And everyone needs to see this as a shot across the bow. They're coming for all of us. Don't think just because you're white, you're going to be safe. This is about really, this is kind of the ultimate fascist assault that took place in that early morning raid. And this has to be stopped.
Yeah. We were actually just talking about white people who are accomplices in this and how they're also being attacked even more now because they see that as a threat. So that's definitely very true. Affectionately, Uncle Anjimo. I saw you.
No, I think Jill touched on the key points. That basically this is a case that is the most significant case of its type in probably more than 50 years.
Yeah.
And I think that most people in the U.S. who define themselves as progressive, or even radical, need to understand that, as Jill said, this is a shot across the bow.
Yeah.
This is an attempt to intimidate all of us. If they are allowed to identify you as an agent of a foreign nation because you oppose the official narrative, then all of us are vulnerable. So it's important that the state sees this level of opposition. It's important that people across the country begin to be a little bit more visible in their opposition to this case and all of the other cases that are developing across the country where they're trying to intimidate and actively repress opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason Call, why are you here?
Well, I'm here to support my candidate here, Jill
course, yeah.
Stein, and but for all the same reasons. I've been involved in activism for 35 years. What's happening, particularly right now with journalists, we saw what happened with Sarah Wilkinson, Richard Medhurst. I mean, to think that Julian Assange getting his freedom was the end of it. The fight is clearly not over. We're so grateful that Julian is back home with his family, but now this is happening to other truth tellers, and we've got to stand up and fight back about it, on it. And I do want to say one thing, and I'll make the announcement live here. We just got sued in Georgia, so Democrats are now trying to get us off the ballot. We got the paperwork less than an hour ago, so Democrats are trying to sue us off the ballot in Georgia.
While they are concern trolling us for not being a larger presence, here they are showing why we are not a larger presence.
AOC, can you explain what's going on in Georgia with the Green Party, with your party trying to kick them off? If you can explain that, please let us know. You can at me on Twitter. Also, why are you here as well?
My name is Kelly Merrill. I'm the deputy campaign manager for this campaign, and I'm here in solidarity with Uhuru to demonstrate vocally and visibly our unwavering support.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I love the bandana, by the way. It's serving. It's serving. Would you like to be?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I just wanted to check.
So we're going to try and get in the courthouse now.
Okay.
And get a seat in there. A couple of seats waiting for Jill and Ajamu, hopefully. And we'll see what happens. I don't know that we're all going to be able to get seated. If not, we'll come back out and say hi.
All right, cool. I'm gonna try to go to a coffee shop to charge my phone, but
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to get in, but they won't allow me on my phone, and
That's right.
I don't want to lose it because it's kind of my whole thing right now.
Well, we're glad you're here to capture the
Yeah,
moment because
thank you.
we all left our electronics back in the hotel room knowing that we weren't going to be able to take them in.
Yeah, great. Look, it's so good to see all of you
Yeah.
here, and look, I have been wanting to meet you for a long time, and you as well. It's such a pleasure and an honor. And look, you guys be in there, be safe. And
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
We do have a community event here in Tampa. If you go to jillstein2024.com, go to the events page. I think it starts around 5 p.m. here in the Tampa area. 6 o'clock in the local time. So go to the events page. If you're in the Tampa area, come say hi.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good to see you, David.
All right, good to see you.
Good. Okay.
All right, so that was the Green Party as well. Miss Jackie, are you okay with me interviewing you for a second? Okay, all right. So that's what's going on right now with a lot of the community organizers as well as the Green Party actually being out here to essentially advocate and support free speech. So if anybody who is in the Tampa area, who is in the or Central Florida area wants to come over, then I think it would be great if you guys can come out and support the Uhuru 3. This is actually a important issue that should be advocated for within our country. The problem is that not a lot of people know about it. So if you guys would like to, you guys can also try to meet them out here. Let me see if I can change the camera. Nope, I did not mean to do that. Okay, so let me do this. Hang on. I thought I could change my camera. So we have them all here. So we're going to be, I'm going to be taking a break in a little bit. My battery's at like 18% right now, but one of the things that I wanted to do was reflect upon what is actually going on. And when the chairman leaves, and I will try to catch him as he leaves, probably, you think could probably be out by like 3 or 4-ish, probably 3 or 4-ish. Yeah. So I'll try to be here by that time. If he's not out by 3:30, then I will have missed him because my bus to go back to Orlando leaves at a little after 4, so I won't be able to stay the entire time. But I was at least able to get the Green Party as well, so that was great. If you guys have not already, please make sure to go ahead and give the stream a like. That helps me out. Appreciate it. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can also try to tag as many people in independent media as you can about this story for them to cover, because it's just that important. So that was a wonderful experience. I'm very happy, and it is hot, and I'm gonna take this jacket off because I'm trying to be as professional as possible. But just any final words as well. Any final words that you would like? Any final words as well about this court that you wanted to share? Any final words about the importance of this that you would like to talk about to the viewers as well?
I think this is one of those situations where, for Indigenous and Native people, our actions are always about the 7 generations before us and the 7 generations after. When I see what's happening here in the courtroom, the future generations are going to judge us about what we did here today. Did we show up and support in the spirit of freedom of speech and community organizing and protection of vulnerable communities? Or did we stay silent and turn away our attention to other things that are not as important as what is happening here? And I call again upon all of our folks that have, journalism, media, that have, followings of folks, to impress upon people the urgency of all eyes on Uhuru.
Yeah.
And to make sure that we are watching very closely these proceedings. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, as you mentioned earlier, what at the end of all this, how are we going to feel? If we show up united as community, no matter what happens in that courtroom, we will have done the right thing. And if we don't show up, if we don't sit in unity and solidarity together with the Uhuru 3, we will be judged about that, just as folks who didn't support the other revolutionaries that came before us, And I think that's an important thing for people to think about and prioritize, So come out to Florida, come out to Tampa, share it as much as you can, support your work as an independent journalist. And I will be following you and adding you and sharing, so that people know that you were here. And I thank you for that. I give you a lot of gratitude.
Thank you so much. Your final words as well?
Build solidarity with each other. Meet your neighbor. Go outside. Cook for
Touch
somebody.
grass.
Touch grass. Read a book.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is about educating yourself and becoming part of your community again. So I just want to impress on people, really, really get to know your neighbors, really find that compassion in yourself, because at the end of the day, we're all human.
Thank you so very much. Look, listen to the voices of our Black and brown people, especially our Black and brown women and femmes out there, because the thing is, they've been telling us for a long time what's been going on, and have we been listening? Have you been listening? So yeah, thank you so very much to everybody. I'm at 15% now. Let me get into the shadow here so I can read just some of the chats as well. Let me see. Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you to Serena as well. Yes. Creative experiments. Nice. I hear you. Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Not Your Mama. Bryce Smith, good to see you in the chat as well. Yeah, it was awesome being able to meet Ajamu Baraka in person. That was something I wanted to do, definitely. I didn't know he was going to be here, but I'm glad he was. Serena is here. My question is, if this is a miscarriage of justice, then why aren't Maxwell Frost here? Right? That's my question. Why isn't Maxwell Frost here if he's supposed to be about free speech? Right? Why isn't AOC here? Why isn't Ilhan Omar here? Rashida Tlaib? So that's the question I like to ask a lot of them. They don't have the answers to that. But, fortunately for us, we do. And so, yes. Uh, Kalimba Calm, thank you so much, said, I knew that she was going to be here. I just didn't know if I'd run into them, but I'm glad I did. So good to see all of you here. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to be heading out. I got to go charge my phone, which means I'll probably shut it off to charge it faster. But please make sure to oppose genocide. Also, to do as much as you can for your fellow neighbors. So, with that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Support free speech, especially in activists. And I will see you guys in the next one. And take care and have a good enough. Forehead kisses. I can't forget that.
Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/JaybeFont. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.
Yeah.